Hi, we're live. Hi, I'm Jen.
And I am Sherry.
And we are here on Tough Talk.
Because it's an emergency.
Right? Tough Talk 911 because it's an emergency. I screwed it up today, Sherry.
But listen, we are here to say what they don't want to say. How about
that? That's perfect, right? That's what this is about. Sometimes we don't even know how to say it. There you go. We just muddle them through.
Jen, I feel like I haven't seen you in forever.
It has been a while because we've been on hiatus for a couple of weeks because you had some time with your beautiful children and then Easter.
That's
right. So we are back. We've been gone for a couple of weeks, and now we're going to get to this topic that we were going to talk about. What now? 3 weeks ago, I guess.
Yes. Oh my goodness. The parent-child relationship. I love you not. Wow.
Yeah, that's kind of deep. Some of us are still going through that, by the way.
You said what?
I said some of us are still actively going through that drama.
Oh, yes. I think I'll be going through it until my death. I really do, because children are so in and out. They're just so in and out. You just never know. But parents are too, so I just don't want to put it all on the children.
Oh no, yeah. There's some parents that not doing what needs to be done too. You know, there can be blame placed on both sides, I think.
Yes. But I do, when I was thinking about this topic, and you know me, I always talk about, doing my little research or what have you. But this time I didn't do that much research because I wanted to just come from what my spirit and my soul wanted to say on this topic.
I know. I did zero research either. Yeah. I'm living it. So what do I need research for?
But you know what? In some point in time in everybody's life, I feel like they're going to experience this. And, like I said before, I'm going through it as well. But I think at some point in every parent's life, they're going to go through some type of situation where their children and their relationship is not on point. And so the thing about it is that it boils down to really understanding the why, really, really being a saint and having courage and understanding that why. And I think that why is what penetrates and what hurts a lot of parents and a lot of children, because the why is scary.
I guess I don't know the why, so.
Well, that's just it. That's just it. Sometimes you won't know. You won't know the why, and sometimes you do know the why. But in situations where it's very tense, shall I say, sometimes that truth does not want to be dealt with. And and I was thinking about just that part about just talking about the truth. The truth of situations, the truth of relationships, the truth, just period. And, we all go through situations in our lives where we have a choice to either deal with what is or cover it up. And it's that cover up that really does that longevity damage. It has a very penetrating longevity to it. And that's what I was talking about, that if you don't deal with that, if parents don't deal with that, if children don't deal with that, sometimes those situations can take people into their death.
Well, a lot of it, again, is communication.
Yes.
You can't, dealing with adult children, you can want to rectify things, you can want to make things right, but it takes two people to do that. And so no matter whether whoever is pursuing that, whether it's the child or the parent, right, wanting to make amends, whatever, both people have to be on board in order for that to happen. And sometimes people aren't, one party isn't ready for that. You know what I mean? Like one party is not there. They're not there yet. They want to sit and simmer and stew and do whatever it is that they want to do. Even if the other person is like, hey, what's wrong? Let's make this right. You know?
And that's the part that I'm talking about right there. You're talking about that simmering and that stewing.
Right.
That's the part right there that has to be dealt with. That's the part right there where people want to cover up. And one thing I've learned about life, Jen, is that there's no such thing as cover-ups. You can try to act like situations don't exist. You can try to act as if things can be tucked away and never talked about again, but it never happens like that. Because somewhere, my grandfather always said, a truth that is crushed to the ground will someday rise. And truth is coming out, whether we want it to or not. And the thing about it is that these cover-ups, these things that can take place in our lives that we don't want to deal with, it's always at the expense of someone else. And that's what really gets me. Sometimes it's not just the parent and child that's affected. Sometimes it's external family relations that are affected. You know, sometimes it's friends that are affected. There are other people in this equation or these equations that become affected by situations when a parent and child cannot get along. And one of the things that's very, very dangerous, especially as other adults who are looking in on situations where parent and children do not get along, or parent and child does not get along, is to make sure you're not trying to take that place of that parent in that child's life. To me, these external people should be people that are standing in a gap to bring those relationships together. But I'm very, very cautious. I know in my own life that when me and my daughters, or me and one of my daughters, or whoever is not getting along, I'm very, very leery of those. And I'm very, very watchful of those adults who are sitting back on the sidelines and continuing to exacerbate that divide. Because
sometimes it's a former spouse, though. So that's the hard part.
Yes. Oh, yeah. It could be a spouse. That's right. It could be that child.
Parent.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
The other parent
who is, being making themselves a part of that divide between that parent and that child. All of these situations that we're talking about, they are so dangerous. They're so dangerous because they have attached to them what we call karma. And you can't get away with that. You really, really cannot. When I was thinking of, well, let me just pause a minute because I know I've been talking. Do you have something you want to interject? I'm going to pause for a minute.
Well, the whole other parent situation, it's devastating. And the idea that parents would play their children against the other parent, would use them as a pawn because they're angry about something, they're upset about the end of the relationship or whatever, and that happens so frequently. And I'm sad it saddens me that this happens to so many people. And this has been the case for me. It was when my children were younger. They weren't very super young, but late in their teens. And it was exacerbated when my children went to go live with their father. And then it was just constant bad mouthing of me, which you never do that. You just don't do that. They're both of your children. You should never bad mouth the other parent to your children ever. This is a huge no-no. And this is what I'm talking about, and what Sherry's talking about is like actually forcing that divide between a child and the parent, and it's detrimental. And now it's like I'm trying to do the work to put this relationship back together, and it's very, very difficult because my kids, for whatever reason, they're not there yet. They're not ready to take those steps. And I know one of my kids, he still lives with that parent. So that relationship is virtually non-existent.
And that's what I'm talking about. Those situations like that are just they're very sensitive situations. And when I tell you, I'm not crying, I got something in my throat. Listen, but I got my tissues just in case. But what I was trying to say is that those situations are so sensitive. And if you have people, especially a parent, another parent, that is causing a rift between a child and his mother, or a child and its father, that is extreme. And one thing I think about, and I reflect back on like my own relationships, I think about, I said to myself, I wasn't a problem when I birthed the child. Mm-hmm. I wasn't a problem when I raised the child. I wasn't a problem when I was washing the child's clothes, when I was going to PTA meetings, when I was shuffling the child around to projects and doing, staying up late night with the doing their work and waking them up in the morning time. I wasn't a problem to making sure that the child had their hair done. And I'm going to the school for teacher conferences, and I'm there for cheerleading practice, and I'm even a cheerleading coach. I wasn't a problem then. I wasn't a problem then when you could not be there, but I was there because you was working, and I was working too, but I found time to do it. I wasn't a problem then, but I'm only a problem when I don't want you anymore. Now I'm this villain parent. Now I'm this parent that is terrible and vindictive and a liar and all. But all of those years, I was seen as one that was holding down the fort, that was there for everybody, that was, the one that sacrificed, and it was okay. But it wasn't until the bold move is made by a woman or a man that they don't want that person anymore, that all of a sudden now I have the characteristics of being this hood rat. Or
you're a horrible mother. Yeah.
Or father, because I know it's both sides. I know it's both sides. Yeah. So we have to look at that. So when we're talking about, and I don't know how we got to this parent thing of people dividing the children, but now I want to deal with that relationship now with that parent and that child. Because there are going to be times where you are not going to get along with your children.
They're not our friends. I mean, that's the thing. You're right. No, we're their parent. So yeah, there's going to be times that we tell them to do something and they don't want to do it.
Exactly.
And they want to fight with you about it,
But I will tell you this, and I always share this with my daughters. I say, I am more stressed with you guys now that you are in adult age than I was when you were children. Because what it is, I all of them now, when they turn 18, one of my daughters made it clear to me when she turned 18 what I could and could not do. And I always remembered that. Because, she ran the law down to me, what the law says you can and cannot do when they turn 18. And I remembered that conversation to the point that I said to myself, you know what, she's right. Society, the law says that when they get a certain age, you can't dictate and direct, what they do and how they do it, even if they live in your house. You can't do that. By law, you can't do that. Okay, what you have to do, you have to put them out your house. Okay,
you can tell them to leave.
Yes, you have to put them out your house. But I heard her loud and clear when she told me that. And so when my daughters, every time they turned 18, I never offered my my guidance like that anymore. I made sure I was very cautious on how I packaged it, because I found that as they got older, they got more defensive, of me interjecting my thoughts or my opinions into their life. And so I flipped it. I said, okay, you know what? I've done all the hard work already. I really have. There's nothing else more. When they turn 18, what else is there for a parent to do? I can't raise anymore. All of that has to happen in those formal years. What are you about to say?
Well, what I was going to say is you're exactly right. I mean, they turn 18, you kind of like lose that power, right? Because it is kind of like, I'm the responsible party because you're not an adult yet. But now that you're an adult, you have to take what it is that I gave you and, do what's best, like you have to make those choices.
Right.
It's hard for some parents to let that go though.
They
right?
have to.
I know, but it's hard for some parents to let that go. And that is a crux of relationships that deteriorate when you have a parent that is controlling and just will not let go. They want to continue to make the decisions for the child. I have cousins that are in this kind of situation. Mm-hmm. Their mother just is like, she means well. She means well, but she's so controlling. It's painful.
Yeah, you can't. And so that's one lesson that I learned early on as a parent, that when they turn 18, I have to readjust myself, my positioning with them. Mm-hmm. Right. And so readjusting my positioning, I only interject my thoughts or my opinions if they ask. I only do that. But I had one of my daughters took offense to that because she said, well, you don't talk to me like that anymore. And I said, well, I can't, because every time I give my opinion or my thoughts on something, you shoot it down. So I've learned to shut up and just allow you to just guide your life. And if you want to talk to me, I am here. I'm always here for my daughters. I'm always going to be present for my daughters, and I'm going to always be there for them. But I do respect that conversation that I had with my other daughter that gave me the rundown of when she was 18. I have to respect that, you know, and I have to also trust my place that I've done everything that I could do to raise them in the best way that I can. Mm-hmm. And that's what I'm going to tell you, Jen, that's what really gets me through all of my situations, the challenges that I may have with my children, because I know that I sacrificed. I know that I gave them the best of the best. I know that I was there for those PTA meetings and those cheerleading camps. And, I was making sure they looked presentable when they went out and making sure I honed in on those skills. I feel good about that. But I will tell you again, me being a public school teacher, there was a lot of children who I never saw their parents at all for years.
Right.
Not showing up to anything. So I do understand that other side of that, where you do have those parents who are not supportive, who has not even checked the child's report card. And so when that child gets 18 and they're off the chain, there's nobody you can blame but yourself. You got to blame yourself for the state that relationship is in, because now that child is going to fault you for being in the place that they're in now, which probably is not going to be a positive place.
Well, kids can fault you for everything if they want to. I mean, it's
no, but yeah, but
all you can do is your best, and your best, is not necessarily going to look like someone else's best. That's the other thing. I'm listening to you, I did this and I did that. And so it was your best. You offered your best to your children. Yes. Okay. Mm-hmm. So somebody else's best might not look anything like your best.
No, so, it is your best. Right, it is your best. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Absolutely.
So, not compare, because somebody who has $1 million, they were probably able to do a lot more financially for their children than I was able to do for mine. So I'm not comparing the best. Right.
But you gave your best, and
you have to do your best. Yes.
We do the best as parents. All that you can do is offer your best at that
support,
right? Mm-hmm. So if that's like, maybe you're not the parent that can make any of the parent-teacher conferences. Maybe that's not what you're even able to do because you're a single mom and you are working. And in order for you to work your job, you can't, do things like that. But you give your best where you can, and you give to your children and provide for them the best that you can. And that's all that you can do. So I just want people to realize that as long as you gave your best, even if it doesn't look anything like mine, or even if it doesn't look anything like Sherry's or whatever, that's what it's about. It's about, did you give the best that you could to your children to provide for them and love them and care for them in that time?
But you know what, Jen? I'm not going to give a parent an out for not going to a parent-child teachers conference. I'm not giving anybody an out on that. I'm going to tell you why. Because you can get on the phone. You could have had conferences on the telephone. And I know some teachers who even would do home visits. I'm talking about parents who didn't make any type of communication stance towards a teacher, and a child is coming home with bad grades. And
effort, no effort taken. There's other ways around it. Like, I participated in stuff like that, but I'm just saying, people do their best at the time. So I'm never going to pass judgment on people and why they didn't do what they did. I'm just not. That's just not.
It's still a right or a wrong. It's not a gray area where it comes to.
In your opinion,
to do. No, it's not a gray area. It really is not. It's not a gray area when you're talking about bringing forth that support, because support is free. Support doesn't cost anything of a child. It does not. And I can think of all the ways that I supported my children. I didn't have to pay a dime for any of that. It was just me being present. It was me being front and center in their lives. It was me sitting down, having those dinners with them when I could. I couldn't do it all the time, but the time that I did have, it was me making sure I was front and center in their life. That didn't cost anything. It cost me.
I agree with you there. But what I'm going to say to you is that may look different to me and you. It's like, that may look different in somebody else's family. You can't make assumptions. You can't make assumptions that because somebody doesn't show up for a meeting with their teacher that they're not being supportive or present for their children.
If your child is coming home with bad grades and you can't go to a parent-teacher conference, you need to send somebody in your family that can. What I'm saying is that you have to make the steps of fixing this child, giving that child the support that they need. And that's so important. Like, even I can speak with, in that situation, there was times where I couldn't be there for one of my children, especially when I was expanding to these different states. I had to put my mother in place and my oldest daughter in place to kind of, be that middle person for me if I could not be there on the spot. So my thing is, you gotta make arrangements. You can't just throw your hands up and say, oh, that's the best I can do. And now this child is 18 with no guidance. Somebody has to take responsibility for that. We can't allow parents just to wash their hands of it and say, well, I did the best I can do. No. Who is taking responsibility now for this child's life being out of order? It's falling on somebody.
Look, I'm not going to argue with you. Some people don't have those things available to them. You say your mom or your sister. Okay, there is an assumption there that you live close to family. What if you don't live close to? Yes, there is. That's what you're saying. Like, send your mother in your place. Send your sister in your place. Send your this. What happens to the people who do not have a support mechanism themselves to do the things that you're suggesting that they need to do in order for it to look like they're giving their best?
Jen, I'm telling you, if you reached out to a school system and there's a parent, and I've had parents who did not have that support, and I took children home myself. And the reason I'm so firm with this, because I know that in these children's lives, if a teacher is made aware that a parent just can't do it, there's a support system there. I'm talking about specifically these parents who are not making any type of steps towards making sure that child has a support system. That's what I'm talking about.
On your side, okay? So those things are perspective based, Sherry. You as the teacher have a limited perspective of that parent's life. So all you're seeing is you do.
No.
You have a limited perspective of that parent's life. All you see is the child, and whether the parents are showing up or the parents are calling you or whatever.
No.
That's all you have to go on.
I have their child in front of me for 8 hours in a day. How clear can that be? I can tell if the child does not have support. I can tell it because the child is spending more time with me as the teacher, or was as the teacher, as opposed to with the parent. So you just know. But the point, I don't want us to stray from the point. The point is, because we could talk back and forth on this forever. But the point is, the point I was trying to make is that it really falls on both sides where these parent-children relationships are. You have some parents who are crappy. Okay, you have some parents who have not done.
Absolutely.
You have some parents who have torn the child, tried to tear the child against the other parent. You have all this, and at the same time, we have some children who have not taken responsibility for their actions, have not taken responsibility for their choices. And what happens is, if these things are not dealt with, if things are covered up in families, what happens is that it reproduces in the next generation. It just keeps reproducing. And you'll see the same type of mentalities over and over again, but now it's in the next generation and it's breeded to the next generation. There has to come a point in a parent and a child's relationship where both sides are adult enough, I'm talking about adult children now, are adult enough to really deal with the truth of some situations, to really deal with those facts of some situations. And I think, once again, that's the part that kind of stings people, because it hurts to deal with that inside. I think the biggest gift I could have given my children is the gift of connection. And I'm not talking about the connection of other people. I'm talking about the connection of understanding who they are inside. And how that happens is that you deal with situations. It's problem solving. Where my children are right now, I'm not looking at like their achievements, Jen. I'm not looking at the jobs that they have and all of that and graduations. At this point in my life, I'm not looking at that, even though that makes me happy, it makes me proud. As a parent of where I am right now, I'm looking at my children to see if they can problem solve. I'm looking to see, are y'all really able to deal with life issues and not ignore them? Because that to me is telling me, did I really teach my child to deal with life? Did I really teach them to deal with life? And if they can't problem solve, if they can't make it over those valley experiences, and every time it's paralyzing them, that tells me something. What's your thoughts?
I don't know. I mean, as adults, there's a place where, you have to know that you did the best that you could and that you did equip them for, life in the real world. But poor choices are still being made. And there's a place where you can no longer assume responsibility for your children as they're adults and they make certain choices. You hear about, people providing a good life for their children, and, they went to the best schools and we spent Christmases together and we vacationed and we did all of the things, but there's no guarantee of how that person is going to turn out. You know what I'm saying? Like, Jeffrey Dahmer's parents probably did a fantastic job raising him, or so they thought, right? But they're still going to turn out to be who they are. There's a point where you've done all that you can as a parent, and your kids are just going to make the decisions that they make. And you pray that maybe someday they'll come around, they'll learn from those mistakes and start making better choices for themselves. But there's no guarantee to that. There's no guarantee that there'll be enough time for that, that your child is going to live long enough to make better choices in their life. So, the parent-child relationship it's just one of those things. Good, bad, indifferent. I think I did a great job raising my children, yet my relationship with my adult children is basically non-existent. although I'm doing my part, I feel like I'm reaching out. I'm like, tell me what you feel like I did wrong. I can't change anything.
No, in your situation, I feel like you're a victim of circumstance. I really do. I feel like you're a victim of circumstance because of someone getting in their head and turning them against you. And that's what I'm talking about. In these situations, some of them is out of your control. And now you have
Which is hard to accept.
I know, but you have to wait for some of these situations to unravel themselves. And I promise you, the day is going to come where it's going to unravel because you're truly a victim of circumstance. And there's no way that you would have been able to block it was like a child being brainwashed, I feel like. And that's what we were talking about earlier.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah. So, and we got some mothers that are, possibly going through divorces, and you and I have talked about this, and, even the court systems, taking the custody away from mothers to fathers that are unscrupulous, and this is happening more and more and more because mothers are going in, telling the truth, feeling like, why should I need a lawyer? I got the truth on my side. And then the legal system is just, turning. Lives are really just going rampant. And the legal system, there's a whole Facebook group just on mothers who have lost custody of their children over lies and foolishness of a father. But I want to make sure, I don't want to bash the men because I know women have done
it. Happens to both sexes. It happens to both sexes. Mothers do it to fathers. Fathers do it to mothers. They use the children as a tool. And Evita, you know what? I agree with you. I don't necessarily like the word victim, but in some cases, it is really it is the appropriate word to use. Okay, because it really was out of my hands. It was about, in my case, it was very much about manipulating the children to have disdain for me when our relationship ended. And that's something that I never did. I never turned my children against their father, ever. No matter how they treated me or how I felt about them, I would never. That is your father. I know you say you don't want to go visit, but that is your father. You are going to go visit with your father. I'm not going to keep you from your father. That was never something that I did. And so, we do have an ability to have a good attitude about the things that happen. However, it was not in my power to change what was happening at his home and how he spoke to the children about me. So I could not change that, Evita. So, but what I did was I carried myself in a way where I didn't carry on like he carried on about me. I didn't badmouth him. Okay. I could have, right? But what good does that do me to badmouth him? And that wasn't something that I wanted to teach my children. So, that was out of my control. It is still out of my control. Although my twins are adults, because they are on the autism spectrum. My oldest twin still lives at home with his father. He's well into his 20s. And I don't know that that's going to change. And because that may not change, he may live with his father indefinitely. I may not ever have the kind of relationship with my oldest son that I would like because he's constantly in that environment.
Yeah, and Jen, and that's exactly what I'm talking about. So I'm going to stick with my word victim because some men and women are victimized and then when they get the court systems layered on top of that, it takes years to unravel these situations, whereas a true relationship can now surface.
Absolutely.
Those type of situations, like I was speaking earlier, that if a person knows that there's a divide between a parent and a child, and you're stepping in and continuing to widen that divide and not doing anything or putting anything in place to bringing that parent and child together, you're being victimized.
Yeah,
okay?
you're part of the problem. You know, if you're that person that's like exacerbating the divide. Yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely.
So I was looking at some reasons that parent and children don't get along, Jen. So this would be fascinating to you. And be mindful now, this is not for the little ones. You know, I'm not even speaking to like 10 and under, right. 12 and under. I'm not talking to they're gonna be mad with you anyway and slam doors when
that's just what they do.
Yeah, this is what they do. I'm talking about when they become of age, okay? Right. And so there were some categories that where there immediately began to have a divide between a parent and a child. And one was when the parent does not like the child's spouse or boyfriend or girlfriend.
Okay, that makes sense.
What you said, it makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, because parents, like, don't you sometimes feel like you get a vibe about somebody? You know?
Don't even get me on that subject, please.
But, right? You're like, you know better. Like, you feel it. You're like, this person doesn't have the best interest of my child. And you just know it. You just know it.
You just know it. And I have had a few of those vibes. I'm here to tell you. And every time I have turned out to be right, just like every time my mother turned out to be right. It went both ways.
Absolutely. Like sometimes you gotta trust your gut, and sometimes parents just know. They just know. I mean, like kids can be, like they get starry-eyed and all like they think they're in love, and the parent is just like, I can't put my finger on it. I can't put my finger on it. But something's right about this person.
That's right. And that's another situation where, as my grandmother say, just live long enough. just live long enough. It'll all come out in the wash. Trust me. Another area that they said parent and children, where there becomes a divide, where there becomes an issue, a problem, is when one side refuses to apologize.
I can see that. But the thing is that sometimes people don't talk about what the issue is so that they can apologize, right? They try to like, no, everything's fine. It's nothing. It's whatever. It's like, if you're putting up that wall to where you don't even want to admit that there's a problem, you just carry yourself with attitude all the time.
Right.
Like, that person, isn't even given the opportunity to apologize for something because you won't say that there's anything wrong.
But Jen, you said something earlier. Not only on the apology side, but you said something earlier in regards to forgiving, because you don't have that apology.
Right. Mm-hmm. Right. Absolutely. I mean, I can apologize, but if you're not willing to go, okay, I accept your apology and I forgive you and let's move forward. It takes two people to mend a relationship. One person can't do it alone.
They can't.
Yeah.
Another one that I thought was very interesting, it was with the grandparents being overbearing and the children not liking that. The grandparents kind of dictating what happens in the child's life. That was an interesting one for me, because I haven't seen a situation like that. But apparently it was on this list of issues with parent and children. It was the grandparent that was causing issues in the life. Have you
I've actually heard of this. And so what happens kind of is the child, like the parent of the children is not necessarily strong enough, right, to stand up to the really controlling grandparent. And so I feel like that's kind of like a situation like that I've seen in my kind of, family, like cousins, where their parent was really, really overbearing. And although they didn't really, they just couldn't stand up to their parent enough to keep their parent from bossing their kid.
Oh, wow. Okay.
You know what I mean? Yeah. They're like, where grandma's running stuff, mom's not necessarily, because mom's so like beat down by controlling grandma. The grandma's just like you're get out of my way. I'm going to tell the kids what to do.
Well, the next thing on the list was parents having favorites. And that will cause a big problem with the parent and the other child. And so,
the other children, absolutely. And it's tricky because I know that they say that you're not supposed to have favorites, okay? And but the truth, okay? Let's just be honest. We're human, and you're sometimes gonna gel with somebody's personality a little bit better than you gel with another person, like another personality. And our children, right? They all have these different personalities. You don't love one any more than you love the other, but you just gel, you just connect, you just get each other. And you may not say, right? You may not say this is my favorite child, but when you connect with one child more than you connect with another child because you just kind of get each other, that can absolutely cause a rift with the other children.
You know how I got over that hurdle? Because I had heard that early on when I first started having children about parent favoritism. I'd seen it in a magazine or something when my children were very young. And I remember saying back then, I said, oh God, I got to fight. I'm going to have to fight to make sure that I don't have favorites, but I find out what it is that I love in each child. So, and my thing is that I kind of recognize that earlier. So what I do for parents who may be in this position right here where, you have these children and all of them do have different personalities. I mean, they have clearly different personalities.
Right.
They are all their individual person. You cannot lump them together. Right. And so what I've done is I make sure that I have every day constant communication with each one of my daughters. Like this, the ones that are willing to talk.
Thank you. Right?
It's like I gotta get permission to be able to talk to you. And can you fit me in your schedule? Okay. But I make sure that I'm doing something to keep that interaction with them, and in doing that, I'm able now to see them as individual people. And really love this aspect of this one and that one, and also understand, okay, now, you want to tighten up on this or you want to tighten up on that, but there is a way to get around it. It really, really is. And really seeing each child as an individual, like you said earlier.
Right. And finding that one thing about them that is you're just like, I love that about you, Yes. So what I used to do when my kids were small was I would say things to them like, you are my favorite Dana in the whole world. So I would just call them by their name. And then, you're my favorite. You're my favorite Trey. You're my favorite Dana. You're my favorite Lonnie. And that's, sometimes that's enough for kids, for them to realize, they are an individual. You don't need to be my favorite child. You're my favorite who you are. You're my favorite you.
Yes.
Right. And so those things, and just ensuring that you do those things, Evita, is just like making sure that you make them feel special and that they're special to you.
And they're very smart. So they're going to be able to peep your card if you're not telling the truth anyway. I mean, they're very smart now. Oh, yes. The children are very smart and wise. Yes, they are. But at the end of the day, with this sensitive topic on the parent-child relationship, first thing we have to realize as parents, and I think this is another thing that we addressed earlier, really asking yourself as a parent, did you really do the best that you could? in your situation.
Right. Right.
You know, and this is not for anybody else to peep into your world, but this is for you to have that tough talk with yourself.
Right.
And you did not do your best. You need to fess up to it and let your child know.
Right.
I didn't do my best here. I didn't. You know,
I think I do know my conversation with my kids because, looking back, hindsight is 2020. That's what they always say. Like when you look back, you can see all of the things. But, I will say this is that, yes, I did do the best that I could, equipped with the tools that I had at that time. Now, if I knew then what I know now, things may have been different, but I knew what I knew then, and I did what I could do with what it is that I knew and my circumstances. And I always did what I thought was best at the time. Now, looking back, can we look back with some regret and think, gosh, I wish I could have done that better? Now that I know, wow, it would have been nice if I could have. But it is what it is. You can't go back.
I want children to understand that if they have a child, and you and I have been through, divorce or what have you, so we know how much of a sensitive space that is. But if there is a child right now and they have a parent that is going through a divorce or a separation, or they've lost their job, or they're dealing with an elderly parent that is sick. I mean, I'm thinking about things that have happened in my life in times whereas I didn't have anything left.
Right.
There was times in my life where I had these experiences where I literally had nothing left.
I were on E. I get it.
Yeah, especially I'm thinking about the time when my father was passing, and and my mother was just she had done all that she could do. My mother was so tired because she had fought years with him with his cancer, and when he got towards the end, she had nothing left. She said, "You or your brother, y'all gonna have to take over now. I don't have anything left." Yeah. And so I know that space of not having anything left. And like I did with my mother, when she said, I have nothing left, I need y'all to take over now. And me taking over, that's what I'm saying. Children need to be sensitive to their parents when they're in those spaces like that. Because if you see a parent really is on their last leg, if you see that they're in an emotional battle of, going through a divorce or what have you, just take the stance of being supportive. Take the stance of really being there, because emotionally, I don't care how old we are. I don't care what financial security we have. Where it comes to these up and down experiences in our life, there are times where people emotionally, there is a breaking point. And there is a point where you need support. You're going to need support.
As the parent, like where it flips and it's like my gas tank is on E. I've done all I can do. Yeah, there is a point where children then need to step up and be like, okay, you were here raising me and taking care of me and doing all of the things that I needed. Now it's my turn.
Yeah.
And that, yeah, absolutely. I mean, and it's going to come to that, God willing, your children live long enough to experience that with you.
Yeah.
But yeah, it will come to that ultimately.
Jen, that reminds me of a little funny story. I was talking to one of my daughters about just the other day, and we were talking about when I had made the decision to leave my marriage. And so when I made the decision to leave, she had me cracking up because she said, "Mommy, I remember the last meal." I used to cook all the time, and she said, "Yeah, my spirit just told me that that last meal that you cooked, that was going to be the last soulful meal that we had at that house." And do you know that was the truth? That was the last full meal that I cooked in that house for the entire family.
Wow.
And so it was funny to me, but by us doing this topic today, it's really surfacing the thought that children are keen too. They're keen to what's happening around them. They know what's happening. You cannot trick them. And that's why it's best to just be straight up, be honest, even if they don't like the truth. They may not want to hear what the truth is. Yep. We don't want to hear what the truth is. But the thing is, don't shy away from the truth. You can't outrun truth. You can't.
No, you can't. And so for example, my husband talks about his parents and how, you know, they stayed together for a really long time for the kids. But it's like the kids even knew. They were like, why are you together?
Exactly.
Like, well, you're miserable. Like, why are you staying together? So, like, if you think you're staying together for the kids, think twice about that, because the kids, they see what's going on. They feel it. They feel the energy. They see that you're unhappy. And most kids want for their parents to be happy. You know, it's the very young children that don't have the comprehension yet to get it. The kind of like, oh, I just want my parents to be together no matter what. But once they get to that age to where they sense the energy and they feel it and it feels ugly. Yeah. Trust me, they feel it and they're like, y'all just need to go your separate ways and be happy separately so I can, like, you know, be happy, because kids feel that, you know?
What you say? The kids say, can y'all please separate, go in your separate room so I can have some peace tonight?
Exactly, you know, and then I'll just take advantage of, you know, when I go to dad's house and when I go to mom's house, and I'll get stuff and it'll be fine.
Well, I say the kids now turn into the adults. That is so funny. Well, Jen, we are upon our hour.
Yeah, we are. What are we talking about next week, Sherry? What are we going to get into?
We didn't discuss it, but you know what? I wonder, because some people put some topics that they want us to talk about. I have something on my mind, but I don't want to throw it out right now because you and I haven't discussed it, and I think it's a very juicy one. But I want to see what some thoughts are.
Yeah, you guys talk in the comments. Do you guys have any ideas of what you would like for us to talk about? Is there any subject matter that you're like, oh, you know, this would be a great topic of conversation on Tough Talk? Drop it in the comments if you guys have some ideas, and maybe we will consider it for our next.
We have some a juicy one, Jen, a very juicy one.
Okay, well, what's your juicy one? Since, you know, I'm sitting here looking at the comments, I'm waiting for some people to pop some juicy tidbits in the comments, and no one's doing it.
I want to talk about fake friends.
Oh, okay. I'm down for that.
Fake friends, when you really think that they're your friend.
Okay, stepchildren. Okay, that's a good one.
What is the place with the stepchildren and a step parent? Is there a boundary there? Wow.
You know what? That could be actually a good topic. I've been a step parent, so I don't know. That could be a good one. That could be a good one. The relationship between step parent and stepchildren.
I have a lot to say in that category as well.
Okay, that could be a good one, Mari. That could be a good one. Okay, I like that. We could definitely put that on our list of topics.
So I'll tell you what, between stepchildren and fake friends, we'll let you know which one we drop.
Oh, sounds good. All right, everyone. We're so happy that you joined us today. It's good to be back. We miss you.
And don't forget, Cash App, Tough Talk 911. You can find Tough Talk 911 on all social media platforms. YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. We haven't really pushed off the TikTok yet. And don't forget, we have a Facebook page. Please go follow, like, give us a thumbs up. And we do have a Facebook group as well, you guys, that we actually post some things in there. We're just kind of starting to build. So I just want you guys to be a part. Jen and I want you guys to be a part in as we begin to build, where we never know where this is going to go.
Yeah, who knows where this will go. So we absolutely appreciate your support. This is not free. We actually do invest our own finances in, you know, some of the applications that we need to do this, and so that it is good production quality for you guys. So thank you again for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you next Sunday, where we're going to get into something juicy, a little bit more Tough Talk 911 for you.
Bye, Jen.
Bye, Sherry. See you next week. Aloha.
Aloha.